initially, I was like, we don't have anything in common. What could we possibly have in common? And he was like, well, we like the same type of women. We're both from the Bay. Love to smoke weed. And I was like, okay, maybe we got a few things in common. What else you do?
Give me the paint, give me the chalk, give me the urban artist talk. Conversations from the heart, from the start we set apart. Art a la carte, now check it.
Are you an artist struggling to sell your artwork? I know the feeling. I've been there, so much so that I decided to publish a book, The Art of Articulation. This book will help you not only navigate the art world, but give you the vocabulary to step into a room with confidence so you can sell your artwork. Pick up this book on Amazon today. Welcome back to another episode of Urban Artist Talk. I'm your host, Andre Jamora, aka Natty Rebel. And this is a, change from the normal structure that we usually have here on Urban Artist Talk. Typically, we have artists. We want to make sure we hear everyone's voice. But this one is definitely special, for lack of a better word, because we have a Bay Area mural program solar trek that we're combining art with. And we're doing this not only in Kenya, but with a very dear friend of mine. He started a nonprofit here in the Bay Area. It's called GivePower. I would like for everyone to just welcome to Urban Artist Talk, Barrett Raftery.
Thank you, Natty.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Good. Yeah, man. I'm super excited. This has been a project in the making for, I'll say years, on so many levels. First off, before we get into, what we've done, how did you get into solar?
Yeah. So when I was growing up, environmentalism was always really important to me. And when I first got out of college, I did nutrition. But then I realized that in nutrition, it wasn't like big scale enough to really impact the environment. Like my dietary choices, although important, it's not really what's going to change the climate change outcome. So, but in my nutrition journey, I became very good friends with a Kenyan, a guy named Wilson Nyoma. And so when I switched into solar a couple years later, because I felt like it was a better way to contribute to the environment, this same Kenyan friend was like, yo, I'm living in Kenya and I'd really love your help. And so that was when this kind of two beams crossed and I started doing solar in Kenya, which was 2008.
2008. Wow. And now I'm trying to remember. Let me see if I could. When did we meet? That wasn't millennia.
No, it was.
Ethiopia. That wasn't 2007, 2008. We must have. So we met.
We had to meet like 2014.
Somewhere around
2014, because I lived in Ethiopia 2010,
Uh-huh.
and that's where I met Ross Mikey.
Okay.
And then I was coming back to visit, and you were visiting at the same time.
Yes.
And I think Ross Mikey moved back to Detroit in like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
And so it was like in the couple years before that.
13, 14, somewhere in around there. Yep.
Yep.
That makes sense. Yeah, so it was amazing just meeting Barrett, and I got to tell it for what it is,
Yeah, that's it.
No, but here I am in Ethiopia. I was talking to Tone about this, traveling, if I could go anywhere in Africa, Ethiopia, I'm there, right? And I'm there with Ross Mikey C. Shout out to Ross Mikey C. And, of course, I met some other ones. And then I meet this white dude who's, chill, but just being in Africa and, not interacting with too many Caucasians in Africa. And, part of that being my MO of being in Africa, just not feeling like the minority. I meet this gentleman and he's very outspoken about energy, very outspoken about Africa. And he was just like, you know what? We have so much in common. And initially I was like, we don't have anything in common. What could we possibly have in common? And he was like, well, we like the same type of women. We're both from the Bay. Love to smoke weed. And I was like, okay, maybe we got a few things in common. What else you do? And long story short, Oni will call you one of my best friends. I will call you, I don't have too many friends. And it was funny because Barrett is, out of my 3 years of living in the house that I live in now, one of the first male friends that I've invited, and I really had to like suss this out because I'm like, hey, I got plenty of friends, and I'm like, maybe I don't, maybe I do. I have a lot of associates, a lot of people that I'm hang out with, but not a handful of people that I will invite back to my house where my family, my pride, my joy reside in my safe space on this crazy planet, and you are one of them.
Well, thank you, man. That's Santi. That's really nice. And I feel the same way. I think, in our friendship, we've gone through such incredible transitions over the last 10 years or whatever it is now. And even like, you were mentioning Ross Mikey, and like, he's a kind of mentor to both of us in certain ways, or at very least like a inspiring colleague, if not a mentor, whichever way you want to put that. And, but at the same time, I feel like some of the original artistic conversations that I started with Mikey in 2010, we continue to have today, all these years later. And Mikey's not even there anymore.
Yeah,
I don't even talk to
We've
Mikey.
We've taken it up on our own. Like, no, it's crazy. Just the projects that we've done, the support that I know that you've given me, the support that you've given BAMP. Fun fact to know and tell. Barrett gave BAMP its first $5,000 loan to just get our nonprofit status. Just, Barrett saw the vision early on. He saw me as a struggling artist because that's, let's call it what it is. But he also saw the potential and was like, Natty, don't fuck this up, because we did a few projects together for, sizable amounts of money. But he was like, you know what? I see the vision. You say you want to do this. Get it done. Holler at me in like a year. And a year went by and we made it happen, man. So thank you.
No, and I think, the podcast, all the different things you built on top of that original idea. So it's amazing to see the development and everything.
The growth, man. And then let's, before we get into the solar and the trek that's going on in Kenya this year, the projects that we have shared in the past. I mean, we've done personal projects, passion projects. Guys say, I painted your whole house in San Francisco, your parents' house in San Francisco. It was a great training for the younger people on the team that had never painted a house. I got to be that Mr. Miyagi, where it's like, you want to be a muralist? You want to paint walls? You want to paint portraits? Paint the trim on this house first. So, thanks to you, I've had those opportunities to, be that mentor and be in spaces to where we can go beyond just, beautifying and mural painting. And then Standing Rock, man. Let's talk about Standing Rock.
Yeah, that was transformative. I think Standing Rock will always be one of the projects that I'm most like grateful that I got to contribute at, and it gave me more perspective than almost any other single act of work and love in my life. And the fact that we got to share that, and that you got to, much like what we have upcoming, this combination of art and science, and being able to contribute in some of these financial and technical ways with the solar and all of those elements that we were doing, as well as beautify the community, convey the community's values, and just turn it into something that spoke to people more than we would have been able to alone. And so I'm always really grateful for that experience. And I remember you drove all the way out there to North Dakota. That's quite a remote place to get to. And
shout out to Timothy B. and Rachel Wolf on that drive.
Yeah.
Jade. Yep. Oni.
Well, I think, one of the things I've always joked about is that we all have a passion, and to me, it's a bit innate. It's not something you choose so much. It's something that you just embody. And those passions aren't treated equally, unfortunately, right? Like, if you really like software, you're going to do probably better financially than someone that likes graphic arts, right? Yeah. And it's not that I don't see it as a great reflection of the merit of the trades,
right?
But I do acknowledge its reality, and that, that makes a challenge for people that both are trying to figure out how to express their passion and support themselves when their passion isn't in an obviously capitalistic trade, right? And so one of the things I've always tried to aspire for in my life is that, in all the ways that I've experienced good luck, and one of those ways was being inclined towards technical things, I always try to hold space for those merits are not things I chose. Like, I don't get to have pride in those. Those are like gifts to me. And at the same time, if I have no pride in that, then I also have the ability to like really share in others' gifts in a way that's very non-threatening. You know what I mean? That's not like it takes away or in any way impacts my self-journey to really love and fall in love with other people's gifts, because I don't see it at like, I think there was something much bigger than you and your visual arts, right? And like you've been impacted by all these things. You had a natural propensity. Then, of course, a lot of discipline, a lot of practice, a lot of time invested, sure. But there were kind of pre-existing conditions in the positive sense that lets you get to where you are.
Definitely.
I mean, for example, I've been at a lot of projects with a lot of artists. I still can't draw. Like, it's never like come together for me, right? And so I don't think it's just exposure, but it sure helps.
Yeah, totally. Speaking of gifts and being innate, a lot of people don't know this about you. I don't even know how many people at your, GivePower, compound. And Barrett is an amazing freestyler. I'm not going to ask him to do it on camera.
Appreciate that.
But my guy, I think one of the things that made me gravitate to Barrett, like,
Do it. That was the base word.
Okay, man. Well, we need a beat and some things. Let's let him finish. We don't want to interrupt the host, babe. Come on.
Oh, for a freestyle from Barrett, I would any and all day. Any and all day. Okay. Are you?
All right, I can do it. Yeah, I don't mind.
Vamp is the tagline. Let's.
All right, can you give me like some rhythmic something?
Oh, one. Okay.
All right, here we go. Bam. It's like that 80 on ramp, taking you up, fill your cup, fill your mind with some art from the start, play your part like knowing your role, staying in control, not letting it go like a constable lets a criminal run in the street, never fearing defeat. I'm dropping heat when I'm complete with my style that's rather neat, like tucked in jeans and a bit of lace. I leave a trace of things that cost this human race that I embrace. With every single day I rise, I surmise the things that surprise you. I do more than most few. I never knew that it would come this true. I think I could do this like a evening stew or kick it like, I don't know, kikombe, the nombe, may want to be my nombre. I can do it in 3 languages and maybe only one. I'm the chosen son from the west side of the gun. Actually a peacekeeper. I'm a believer. I'm not a meat eater. Or I am now, but I still like a holy cow, a sacred lamb, or some fake beef. I don't have anything. I just feel complete. Yeah, man. Here we go. Give me some reggae outros. You know.
Come on. Who was expecting that in him? Well, Anita, of course. But after the Standing Rock project, which was an amazing project, we came back to the Bay, embarked on different projects.
You're smiling, so you liked it.
Barrett hit me up and was like, I got this concept. I want to do a tribute to hip hop, but in like an Ethiopian, illustrative style. Of course, for those that know me, I love Ethiopian artwork, love hip hop. I said, let's go. It was amazing because Barrett was able to like articulate all of the moments of hip hop as it came from the East Coast to the West Coast, the influence of this one and that one. And we depicted this in probably like a 20 panel,
something like that.
Like illustration of the history of hip hop in an Ethiopian illustrated style.
Yeah. And it was cool too, because like Ethiopia has lots of things, like for example, a halo when someone has died in their mural. So we could like highlight, say, Mac Dre and give him the halo. Or like, for example, in Ethiopia, when you're facing front, you're a good guy. And when you're profile, you're a bad guy. And so we used a lot of these kind of like
references for our depiction. And it's still there in the house?
Still there. Amazing. Still rocking.
Amazing. So yeah, real quick, or let's change gears and talk about the future. We got a little bit of your solar past, a little bit of our connection and our very first art and solar project in Standing Rock. Now we're about to embark on a project, a solar trek in Kenya, your home.
Yep.
Where you and Anita stay, not too far from Nairobi. Not too far from Nairobi.
Yeah, outside of town, but not too
far. I'm super excited about this. I feel like this might be one of the first of its kind, at least in the BAMP GivePower sphere. I haven't heard of too many solar treks with a mural component of, underserved artists coming from the States. It's a very niche market.
Yeah. I think we made it up. Yeah, so it's very niche. I'll put it like this. GivePower has this trek experience that's really driven by a couple things. I mean, I think the first is just the experience of it, right?
Yeah.
Like getting people outside of America into these rural places that are generally not touristed, and just everything that comes with that exposure of living in a real rural village in this world and seeing all the community, the infrastructure, just the entire experience of what it is to live in that place and to really sit in it too. We're there for a week. We don't go anywhere once we get there. So we really try to be present in that place, not pass through. The second part is it's educational. Like I think whether it's cultural or art or solar engineering, it's about having a low enough entry point that everyone can participate and learn something, despite various levels of skill of all the participants.
Right.
And so that's been really critical. And then the last part is it's the empowerment of having this moment in your life where you can genuinely give something of value. And not that we don't have a lot of those moments, but I feel like part of our journey as people is realizing our ability to help others in reality, like not conceptually, but to like have that moment where you're like, oh, I made this person's life better in a very substantial and material way.
Yeah.
And I think giving that one chance where we curate this experience that allows you to so meaningfully contribute to someone's life can open up all sorts of other ways that you can envision, oh, wait, if I could help someone facing, what the West would consider extreme poverty. I have some issues about that, but we'll just say like financial poverty, sure. And you can make a real difference in someone's life in a relatively short amount of time without a lot of resources. So what can you do in your own neighborhood? And I think it just opens up a lot of that discussion, because so much of our life is spent ensuring that we're okay, and we don't generally have a lot of resources to give.
Yeah.
What's going on, good people? Andre Jamora here, and as the executive director of the Bay Area Mural Program, I want to tell you about Chroma Paint. Chroma is our go-to brand, and we want to make sure it's your go-to brand too. Visit them at their website at chromaonline.com.
So if you could speak directly to some of the participants going on the trek, what could you tell them to expect about the solar component in Kenya?
Yeah, so the reason that we designed the program in the way we did is that it's hard to fully grasp the impact of not having electricity if you've always had it. Yeah. Right? Like if you grew up in an American city, sure, you've had a blackout, sure, you've been moments without electricity, but it's much different than being in a blackout. Right? If there was never any power, the restaurant, the clinic.
You have no expectation.
Yeah, like if there was no expectation, there was no fulfillment, there was no plan to even get power at any point. You're just the way your social services, the way your life kind of unfolds is dramatically different. Yeah. And I don't think there's any way to show someone the holistic impact of this access to energy without taking them into a place that didn't have it before. Right. And so I'd say, if I were speaking to an incoming trekker, I would say that the experience will be physically difficult because you'll have less comforts than you're used to, whether it's, sanitation, like pumped water, hot water, all these things. We're not going to have any of that, whether it's like internet access or just reliable lighting, just so many things that physically make it a little less comfortable. The other one that I'd say is just a shockingly common realization is that the people that you're going to help that are in a vulnerable situation are probably much happier than you in a weird way. Like emotionally and spiritually, they're probably better off than the average American, even if they're facing some really hard circumstance. And so one of the things I've always loved is decoupling. I think America has so much tied to wealth as a source of happiness that we sometimes forget to decouple that, like poverty and sadness are not the same.
No.
And so, I'd say on one level, you're going to experience more emotional positivity than you get exposed to in your normal week. On the other side, you also have some like real compromises around luxuries. And like, what I mean? Just kind of your
culture.
Yeah. We should, like, for example, we have shared communal meals every day. So you don't get to like order what you want.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's not like I want the pizza. Like, you're just going to eat what we have today. Right. We source everything locally. There's not a lot of options, but for a week, like, you'll have 3 meals a day. You'll be fine. But this is what's available. Yeah. Which is an important part of having no power, right? Like, is that you only have what's available.
So bring a granola bar.
Yeah, a couple.
Try not to eat them all on the plane.
Exactly. Yeah, make sure they give you snacks on the plane if you ask. So I mean, those are the big ones. The other one that I'm really adamant about in this trek that kind of has inspired it since the beginning is most of the people that go on these treks are from the solar industry. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're not like construction guys, they're not like engineers, but they work somewhere in the solar space. And I feel that's a real miss for us in that we don't get that diversity. We don't get a lot of people outside of solar, and like doing solar with people that work in solar. It's easy. It's like talking to like artists about the value of art. Of course, they like have dedicated their life to this trade. Yeah. But I think stepping outside of that very like comfortable inbuilt audience, working with artists, but bringing them non-artistic conversations and experiences so that it hopefully can broaden the art or make them realize other strengths they have. Totally. And then I think the last one that I'm really excited about is that the cultural elements that we can curate together are so much more than I can do in the normal program. Yeah. Like, I think that coming from, say, like Oakland or the Bay in general, there's so much to be discussed about how things are in East Africa, and that compare and contrast and learning is super powerful. Like, I'll say a very interesting thing for me is that I've probably led probably 50 or 60 of these trips at this point in my life across 3 continents over the last 8 years. And one thing that's been really clear to me is that when you take Americans, almost all the participants are American. We do it in Asia, we do it in Latin America, we do it in Africa. It's like when you go to Asia, 1 in 3 Americans has been to Asia before. Maybe not into this like rural village life, but they've been to Tokyo, they've been to Hong Kong, they went to Bali, whatever it might be. Latin America, maybe like 1 in 5. And I think on the like 12 or 15 of these we've run in Kenya in the last 2 years, with the exception of 3 Kenyans that have come in the program. We've had 2 Americans not from Kenya who had been to Africa at all. Yeah. So 5 out of 150 have been to Africa, and 3 of those 5 were from Kenya. So like they were just going back to a place they were very familiar with. Yeah. They spoke great Swahili. They didn't have any of that like distance, right? And so, so when you think about just how little exposure on average Americans are getting to the reality on the ground, it's so much less than Asia or Latin America that, of course, we have a lot of misconceptions. We just don't have a lot of exposure.
Exactly. And that's why this trip is big, just so that the trekkers can get that exposure and have that introduction. Some of the trekkers will have been to Africa before, some of them haven't. But just even being able to be inspired by the similarities, but as well as the differences, to be able to even take some things that we learn, because, every day, if you're tapped in, we're going to be learning something new, whether it's artistic or solar or just, hygienic, or even how people might, use chew sticks instead of, like a toothbrush. And it's like, no, it's not necessarily bad. Like, it's just different. Yep. Right. So many of these things. I remember my first trip I came back with a chew stick and was just like, oh yeah, this is how I'm brushing my teeth now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Use all that plastic.
So yeah, it's just being inspired and what we can do with it, both there and when we return back to Oakland.
And the other one that I'm hopeful for, to kind of intention set, is that there's a lot of places in life where if you look at the story, it's like something leaves and then it like changes and then it comes back to the place that it came from and inspires something totally different in its origin place. Yeah. You know, like I would say like Afrobeat music, right?
Completely.
Like Jamaica put out this dance hall thing. The dance hall thing got back to West Africa. West Africa people were like, oh, like actually this is very familiar to me and our musical style. And then next thing you know, we have a generation of Afrobeat artists that have gotten farther than any of the Afrobeat artists before them, right? Like driven off of this kind of rebirthing of something that really was West African in its roots.
Yeah.
You know, and like, I'll be so bold as to say, like, broadly, art and science generally come from Africa. And so to then have this trip where we deal with both scientific, like modern science and engineering, modern artistic and things, and then putting it in that environment, and then seeing what we get out of that, I'm just really excited to see what we get and what happens.
Man, I can't wait. I'm, counting down the days, but also taking our time because we're still in the process of just like organizing and making sure that we got all of our T's crossed and our I's dotted. But yeah, it's going to be an amazing trip. I know you've done it several times. It'll be new for us, but we're just delighted to even just be a part of this mission. I actually ran into, one girl we interviewed. I was touched because she was actually Kenyan. I had asked her to come today. Born here in America, father was Kenyan and passed away. And was just like, I would love to go on this trip just because I want to reconnect with Kenya. I've never been there before, don't know Swahili. I just need to feel a part of me that's missing. I need to fill that void, even if it's people in Kenya saying, you're not like us. Just, even to be able to hear them say that will fill such a void that she, expressed. And I was just like, this trip, and, she works for Cotopaxi, which is a big outdoor company. I guess I'm telling too much. But it's just amazing to see how, and she was very thankful, like, this trip, I've never even heard of anything like this. So, and of course we're like, yeah, this is first time. But just the way, I still don't even think we know all the different ways that it's going to inspire and benefit people.
And I think one of the things that I've been just kind of sitting with is, before we got on, we were having a conversation about like kind of like diversity and inclusion hires, right? We were having this thing, and I was like, to me, one of the fundamental parts is it's like within the nature of privilege, like privilege is concentrated in the hands of a few people through like repeated access to high quality experiences, right? Whether it's college education, whether it's home life, whether it's extracurricular activities, like in a million ways, right? And so one of the things that I always hold in my like understanding of trying to levelize the workforce is like, you're not going to get the best if you're going to do it this way, because the best had all that advantage ready, right? And it's like, you can't. And the reason that I mention it here is it's like, how do we empower people to have these transformative experiences outside this very small circle of people that get a lot of these experiences, right? That have traveled since, I was very fortunate. My parents took me international when I was young, right? And all these things helped set the stage for when I was in my mid-20s, I could move to Kenya because I was confident, because so many things about, like, I'd been on the plane, I'd been to wherever. My parents had told me when they were young, they had done, and so it's not even me. It's like my parents had been loaded with these positive experiences that then they loaded me with, that now my daughter can, like, both be Kenyan and American and feel intimidated by neither, And so I just feel like there is like a repetition in the teaching process, in the capacity building process, in our growth as humans, and being able to have exceptional experiences is a fundamental piece of creating exceptional results in people's lives.
I couldn't have put it better. Yeah, man. Anything else you would like to tell people about the trek, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that in general, what the most important thing that we need from people is just this all-in mind state, right? Like, if you're gonna go on this thing, don't like have calls set up. Don't have like your emails you need to get back. Like, don't bring all of that stuff into this rural place, because it's going to be really hard. Like, internet connectivity sucks. Like, service isn't great. Like, first of all, there'll just be like difficulties achieving it, but then it's going to take you out of the thing that we're there to do, which is like get out of that lifestyle, right? If you're stressing about your Zoom meeting, you aren't in the rural lifestyle yet, right? Like, you haven't gotten out. And so please, like, to anyone that's thinking about coming, like, expect a little physical discomfort, expect to work physically, right? Like, this is like building things. You don't have to be a construction expert, but you're going to hold the shovel. You're going to get sweaty. It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to stay in a place that's not air conditioned. It's going to happen. Like, there's just going to be some things that you're going to go through. But on the other side, it's like, how do I push through these uncomfortable experiences with an intentionality, with a presence that allows me to learn from them, not just suffer through them?
Yeah.
And that's what I really hope for, because I could see if you came in the wrong mind state and focused on the wrong things, it wouldn't be very pleasant at all. Yeah, it wouldn't be fun.
Yeah.
And so,
we're gearing up to, prepare all the Trekkies and make sure that they have everything that they need physically and mentally to embark on this trek. The great thing is we are going to be coming back here to Oakland, and we will have a artist talk at not only the block/square building downtown Oakland, but also Kinfolk. And for all those here in Oakland that know Kinfolk, shout out to Creighton. It's the big coffee shop downtown, right next to the block building. So we're gonna have 2 opportunities to like really just share with the Oakland community about the trip, photos, images of the mural, images of the solar, and really just get to elaborate on like what the trip holds. So we're looking forward to it right now. We can only assume when we come back to the artist talk, come back to Oakland, we got to tell you all about it. So Barrett, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. All right.
Yeah. Well, wonderful to see you. I look forward to seeing you in a few months in Kenya.
I'll see you in Kenya.
Yeah, man. Good.
All right.
All right.
This is Andre Jamora. Dread out.
Give me the paint, give me the chalk, give me the urban artist talk. Give me the paint, give me the chalk, give me the urban artist talk.